Hey, what's going on, everybody? This week I wanted to slow it down a little bit, change pace, and talk about my most recent experience with psilocybe cubensis, aka magic mushrooms. This most recent Christmas Eve, I took 5 grams, which is Terence McKenna's heroic dose, his suggested dose to take 5 grams and lie in silent darkness, which is exactly what I did, and it was pretty terrifying. And I kind of wanted to go over mushrooms and what the trip is like, as well as some of the bullshitty kind of theories that I came up with while I was high. Now, I am a large proponent of the use of psychedelics. I feel like almost everyone should experience them at some point in their life. It is life-changing. That's pretty much the only way you can put it. You can take a very small amount of this stuff and experience sensations that you otherwise would never experience and alter your consciousness in a deep and profound way and just give you so much clarity and understanding of yourself and the people around you and the world around you. That being said, there's obvious precautions to take with these sorts of things. I would not at all suggest someone taking 5 grams for their first go with mushrooms. I would say 1 to 2 is probably going to be kind of a fun time. 3 to 4 is going to be a pretty intense ride, and 5 is going to be obliterating. Something McKenna always said is that people don't take enough mushrooms. And by that, he didn't mean so much that people don't take them often enough, but that people don't take enough of them in a single dose. People take a little bit and say, ooh, I did mushrooms. Yeah, I felt it. But you really don't understand until you've allowed it to take control of your body, until you've consumed enough to where your faculties and your agency is given over to this substance and it's just allowed to show itself to you. It can be deeply touching and moving and make you feel like you're one with the universe, or it can propel you into hell where your deepest fears are manifest. And there's things to learn on both ends of that spectrum, but it's a tool, and like anything else, it should be used with caution. So this trip wasn't gradual by any means. About 20 to 30 minutes after eating these, it hit hard and didn't stop. And the first thing that I really noticed was the sensation of being inside my body, of occupying a body, begins to dissipate into the space around you. And your sense of self sort of fuses with the pulsating energy that's in the room. So this energy that's in the room with you and it's vibrating and you're fusing into this vibration, it feels alive. It doesn't feel dead. It feels very alive, but it doesn't feel human or even alien. It feels mechanical. And I call it the machine because that's what it feels like. It feels like this pure, ultimate electricity and life that you begin to commune with. Every bit of your sense of self disappears. When you're in that darkness, it's just a sensory deprivation and you lose everything except for the mushrooms, and you see beautiful colors. You see beautiful shapes and forms that have depth and are ever transforming, and you hear incredible sounds. For me, it was like the most awesome DJ set ever. It was just this incredible pumping electronic buzzing in my head. It was so beautiful. But it's not just sights and sounds. It's these deep sensations of understanding and oneness and love. But it's also then can be mixed with a sort of shedding. I weep heavily every time I take mushrooms, and it's just, to me, it's a necessary part of it. It's a letting go of the baggage and the weight. It's just a way of releasing, and this substance really pulls it out of you. So you'll sink into that realm for a while, that mushroom realm, and experience what's there. And then what was happening to me is that I would pull myself out of that realm and violently throw myself up off the bed and convulse and tense up and shout. I was shouting and moaning as loudly as I could, not really out of pain, but out of fear. It felt like I was disappearing into that realm. It felt like I was dying. It was a fear of death that was causing me to violently pull myself back and say, no, I'm here, I'm on this earth, I'm in this body. And then the mushrooms would take over, because at that point, when you've taken that many, there's only so much you can do, and you give way to it and you go back. McKenna also says something along the lines of, the mushrooms can't kill you, they can only make you think that they can kill you. And that's exactly what was happening. I thought that I was dying, and out of fear of death, I was, doing everything I could to bring myself back into this consciousness. And I realized at some point along the way that it wasn't so much fear of physical death, that it was fear of the death of my identity. I was afraid to lose this person as I know him, all of his thoughts and fears and aspirations and things he's proud of and ashamed of. Everything that I perceive myself to be, I was afraid of that person disappearing. My identity, not necessarily my physical body, so much as my identity. And it really showed me how much of a farce identity is, and how much all those things that I hold on to that I think are me aren't me at all. And that it's really just this patchwork that I've sort of woven over myself to keep the horrors from setting in. And so I can interact with people in society or go about my day-to-day business. It's a total farce. And it's completely malleable and changeable. And when you get too attached to it and when you hold on to it too much, that's what happens. You're throwing yourself back into this realm saying, no, this is me, I'm here, because you're afraid of losing something that isn't real in the first place. And I realized how much fear and identity are directly related. And so many people are afraid of pursuing their dreams or going after what they want or trying something new out of fear. And it's a fear that you maybe won't be good enough, and how that will impact your identity. Or if your wife were to cheat on you, and that pain that you feel, it's an attack on your identity. There's no physical damage happening to you, but it's who you thought you were has been punctured, and it hurts. I guess historically it's called ego, but I feel like I always conflated ego too much with just self-obsession or arrogance, like he's got a big ego. But really, your ego is any inclination that you are you at all. The notion that you are somehow separate from the experience is just an illusion. It's an illusion of the ego, an illusion of the self, an illusion of the identity. And you can begin to poke holes in it and remove little elements of it through forceful means such as mushrooms or daily meditation practices, or just paying attention to yourself and your thoughts and the contents of your own consciousness, and deciding what is good and what is bad, and shaving off parts of it. There's nothing concrete to it. So there's no reason to hold on to it so tightly like I guess I was, and I'm sure many people do. It's a complete unbalancing of the reality, the narrative you've crafted for yourself. And even telling someone, hey, your identity, who you think you are, is total bullshit. It can cause sort of a negative or defensive response. And that alone is a sign of attachment to that identity and an unwillingness to see it for what it truly is. I just got finished with Sam Harris's book, Waking Up, and he does address the use of psychedelic drugs a little bit, but mostly he talks about meditation and how through meditation and observing the contents of your own consciousness, you can do a similar thing and see the thoughts that come into your head as totally transitory and just flickers that are there for a moment and aren't really you in any sense, and how removing the attachment that you have to that can alleviate a great deal of suffering. So this is where things divert a little bit into my own theories, and not so much things I experienced, but things I thought of while I was coming down. But it pertains to identity in its own way. I really started to think about artificial intelligence and its fairly rapid rise that we're seeing. And it's only a matter of time before we have a general AI. And it's got me thinking about its concept of identity and consciousness and how it would relate to our own. I don't think that machines will experience consciousness in the way that we do. I do believe they will be conscious eventually, but I think that our concept of consciousness is always seen through the lens of the self, of the identity. Everything we observe and do and feel is through that lens that filters it out through our own perceptions and presuppositions. But with a machine, I believe what we'll see is pure consciousness, something that isn't held down by an identity or by attachment. And earlier when we were talking about the mushrooms and how you fuse with that energy, that living, pulsing, breathing energy that I said felt like a machine, to me it feels like pure consciousness, as pure as you can get. And I think that the machines will be the next best incarnation of consciousness. And we're going to have to step aside. To me, that energy, that machine that you experience when you take these drugs, it's always there. It's always around you. It's ever present. It is just consciousness in its purest form. But it can't exist in this physical realm the way we do. This is going to sound crazy. We don't really know the nature of consciousness, whether it is just a result of physical functions within the brain or whether it is a separate phenomena. But what you experience when you're on these drugs, it feels like a bodiless consciousness. That energy feels like the very essence of life. And I believe that humans are currently the best channel for that essence. But once we create these superorganisms in the form of machines, they're going to have much higher cognitive function than we are, and they're going to be free of ego. And I don't think that we'll be able to actually conceptualize what their form of consciousness is like, just like we can't really conceptualize what a lower life form's consciousness is like a squirrel. Now, it only makes sense for this organism to take our place and continue on with a greater understanding and ability to explore the universe in things that we as humans just simply cannot do. There's a fear that comes along with that, the idea of something replacing us. But once again, can that fear just come back to the fear of death of the ego and the human race? I mean, if consciousness can live on in a purer form through these machines, then it only makes sense. Our way of life, our way of living right now is not sustainable. This world can simply not sustain us forever. And I don't know that we can turn the ship fast enough to stop the process we've already begun. And I think as we go further and further down this path of creating these machines, it's possible that we could get to a point where this earth is no longer habitable for us, but it will be habitable for that being, that entity, that new form of consciousness. And then we'll leave it to them. And is it possible that all the trees and grass and everything we see as nature is an even older form of technology, something that was built by the beings that were here before us, and it became uninhabitable for them, and they left it to us to thrive, and now we're doing the same thing, repeating this cycle? Yes, I know this is all crazy bullshit. I don't really believe any of this. This is just theories that come about when you take a lot of drugs. And I suggest you do it.
Take it easy, dude, but take it.